Dave, we're backstage at Izod Arena right now, American Carnage tonight. This is actually the third time you and I are talking this year alone.
I know.
Are we Facebook friends? do you want to join my Mafia?
I've come around this area a lot here, haven't I, this year?
It's been a busy year for you.
It has.
You kind of waiting for a break, or?
You know, I just had one. It was about a week long. I guess that's about the longest break I'm going to have for a while. We just rolled. I mean, last time I saw you was when we did the 20th anniversary tour for Rust in Peace in Scranton. And since then, we went to Central and South America. We went to Europe for about 2 months. And we did the eastern part of Canada, of the Carnage tour. And then I had my week break. And now I'm back. So, you know, but it's cool because I find that sometimes when you're in a groove and you're working and you got your mojo going, it's almost better to stay in the groove because it's harder to get in it than it is to stay in it.
Since we last spoke, the big four shows over in Europe, Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer. You had that fantastic jam on Am I Evil?
Right.
Only Dave Lombardo from Slayer showed up to that jam.
Yeah.
Where was everyone else?
I was thinking the same thing because I asked Kerry, I saw him back there, you know, backstage. Did he give up a jam? He's like, oh, I don't really know the song. Dude, it's not that hard. It's Am I Evil. It's a song we all know. You know, but for whatever reason they didn't, and I'm certainly glad Dave came up there, you know. I mean, I guess technically you only needed one representative from each band, but, you know, I think certainly for us in Megadeth and the Anthrax guys too, you know, we were like, are you kidding? But absolutely, you know, what a great idea. I mean, for the fans, I mean, to me, that's something all the fans would be wanting. It's like, wow, I wonder, I mean, obviously a lot of people are asking, oh, is Dave going to go jam with Metallica? And then to have everybody come up in one big setting like that was very, very powerful.
What I found most interesting about the giant jam at Sonosphere was that you don't really see 2-3 drummers, 2-3 bassists, and it kind of made me think of, did you see when Metallica was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and they had Jason Newsted and Rob Trujillo on bass?
Rightfully so, right.
And it was so heavy with that double bass sound. Yeah. How did you find it changed the dynamic playing with a couple of drummers, a couple of bassists?
Well, that was my first comment was, wait a minute, how many bass players do we really need up here? Because you really only need one bass player, even when you have a wall of guitars up there. But, you know, Robert was great because when we walked in to do the rehearsal, he, you know, right away, he's like, oh man, I'm glad you're here. So he unplugs his bass and hands me the cable, and, you know, I plug in and played. And it was great. Frank Bello, of course, a great bass player, and so it's you know, it was Frank, Robert, and myself up there playing. And of course, Robert's tone is all dialed in because you know it's the Metallica set at that point, you know, and we're just jumping up to jam on. But yeah, I mean, it sounded awesome. It was big, and especially all the guitars. You know, there was something like 13 extra amps or something up there between all the guitars and bass amps, and what I thought was cool about it was the way that it was arranged, because over on my side was, you know, Chris Broderick, me, Kirk, and God, I forgot, I mean, it was such a mayhem, you know what I mean? But then Robert was kind of hanging in the middle, and then over on stage right was James and Dave, and Joey Belladonna, and Frank Bello, and it was just really a cool. I mean, I don't know if they strategically set the amps up like that, but it was just cool, man, the way that it's like everybody just lined up on stage, and like we had these, you know, stage left, there was a center stage, and there was a stage right grouping of band members, and I mean, it was one of the, it was a magical day, man.
Was it strange for you after, like, you know, 25 years of your Dave Mustaine's right-hand man, and all of a sudden you're on stage playing next to James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich?
Oh, it was great. I mean, me and James are friends, and, you know, we get along real well. So it was cool to be playing music, you know. We never played music together before. We just hung and been buddies, you know. So it was cool to, you know, to throw down. And same with Kirk, you know. And you know, as soon as I went out there, you know, Kirk's just looking at me going, man, this is so cool. You know, it's as loud and roaring as it was. It's not actually that loud on stage, believe it or not. You know what I mean? So you can kind of talk real loud to each other up there. But it, you know, he was digging it, man. He had a big old grin on his face. We were throwing down together. So.
So now the American Carnage Tour, which I guess is really the sequel to the Canadian Carnage Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Who first said, all right, let's just grab Megadeth, we'll grab Slayer, and just let the kids go nuts?
You know, this really started back in 1990 when we put out Rust in Peace and Slayer did, you know, their Seasons of the Abyss record. And we went to Europe and we did the first Clash of the Titans tour, and Testament was on that. So that was the three of us, and Suicidal Tendencies was on that bill. So it was 4 bands. And then from there, we came over and we jumped on the Judas Priest Painkiller tour, which was Priest, Megadeth, Testament. And then we all did our stuff for a few months, and then we regrouped in the summer of '91, and we did the Clash of the Titans for America, which will then be, you know, the next round coming up here in October, which will be Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. So, and then the fact that we just did the big 4, you know, it just goes to show that I think, you know, last year, it seems like in '09, the powers that be, the agents, the managers, and everybody just kind of having some forethought, thinking about all this stuff. See, you know, you could just tell our genre was really coming of age again, 20 years later, so to speak. You know, we were really coming back, and we, obviously this music has inspired several generations of music. I mean, the new metal guys were inspired by what we did. You know, the more recent crop of the younger thrash guys that are, you know, now it's their turn up to bat.
What new bands are you digging?
Well, you know, Lamb of God to me is just, they've really become the icon one, you know, and to some degree with you know, they kind of came in and took the baton from Pantera, which was great because they're very much stylistically like that. They've got the right kind of attitude. And even though they're, you know, a little bit younger, kind of a half generation behind us, man, they fly the banner well.
They throw down. I just saw the Mayhem Festival.
Fantastic, man. They played right before us at Download, man, and I mean they're the real deal, you know. So I think for the next generation of thrash guys, there's a reason that they're the leaders, you know. They really they get it. And they have the right sound, and they really deliver.
Well into the fall, right? And Anthrax is going to be coming on instead of Testament. So that's 3 out of the big 4. Is that kind of a prelude to a real big 4 tour here in the U.S.?
Well, you know, I think we're all waiting for, really it comes down to Metallica, you know. If they want to carry on with the big 4, I don't think any of the 3 of us are going to complain, you know, obviously.
And they're just finishing a 2-year tour cycle.
Exactly, you know, and I mean, look, best I can tell, those guys are having a blast, man. They loved it. I mean, the first day in Poland, James was over there by Dave's Guitars, hanging, watching the show. I mean, just, you know, we were all, again, it almost was like if we all did that in San Francisco back in the club days. You know, we'd all be checking each other out, you know. Only now, instead of it being competitive, it was more like coming out to celebrate and just going, look at how cool this is, you know. And it was, you know, though, you know, Metallica, I think, you know, for as big as that band got, I think that them coming in and doing the big 4, which is really getting back down in the trenches and just going old school again, man, I think best I could tell, they were having the time of their lives, you know.
What's your favorite Slayer song?
You know, South of Heaven's still one of my favorites, you know, because I just love the arena rock opening riff, you know what I mean? That's one of those riffs that as soon as you hear it, you know, you're like, oh, Slayer, you know?
Skin on the back of your neck.
Yeah, you know, and I love that. It's like when you hear, you know, for me, old Priest tunes, you hear like the beginning of, you know, The Ripper or something, you know, or more recently you hear, you know, Breaking the Law on the radio, bang. You just know who it is, you know, so to me that's that song for Slayer. As soon as you hear it, that's what it is.
Real fast, I got to ask you about Hale.
Yeah.
Of course, Paul Gray passing was such a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I know you got. Were you responsible for getting James Lorenzo to fill in?
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I was to a large degree. He was kind of on a short list, to be honest with you. You know, I was so happy for Paul because I've known Paul for, you know, quite a few years, and I was happy to see him because he's one of the only guys who never took his mask off. He didn't go outside of Slipknot to do anything other than Slipknot, and I was happy. I'm like, dude, this. You sent him a text, and man, go enjoy this. You'll have a great time. Hale is just it's a fun band, you know. And when I got, actually, ironically, Sean sent me an email that Monday afternoon, and he said, dude, I just heard a horrible rumor, and I hope it's not true, but I heard Paul Gray passed away, and I think, isn't he supposed to do these Hale dates, like this weekend at Rock in Rio in Portugal? And so I called the manager, and I said, Mark, I don't know if this is true, but you got to check into this, and it was really right at the very tip of it all, of the news coming out. And so right away, I mean, that was my first thing. Is I like, dude, call Lorenzo, man. Just, you know, he's one of the Brotherhood. I mean, he's certainly part of our, you know, he's part of the Megadeth family tree now, and just as a bass brother, he's a cool guy. He's a great player. He's the kind of guy that I know he can handle. You know, he can jump in and with about 3 days' notice, learn a bunch of tunes, and James is a great singer. So I'm glad that in light of a tragedy, that James was able to step in and do it. And from what I could tell from what Paul Bostaff was saying, those guys had a great time together. They had a lot of fun. And actually, they're overdoing something in Australia or in New Zealand right now with a different lineup. It's Ripper and Scott Travis, and Tony McAlpine and Tony Franklin's playing bass. So a very eclectic, different side of Hale. So I'm happy. And again, it's kind of there for available whenever guys are available to do it. With that thing, I'm just glad we created something that, like, guys in between gigs or in between stuff that they may be doing, they got an opportunity to go out and throw down and hang with their buddies and play some rock and roll and play some metal.